To say I don't have a love for this series would be a lie. These games are the first ones that I ever played in earnest, and to think, hold on a second. I've completed them again and again, tried dozens of teams, toppled the Elite Four more times than I can count, but have these games run their course? Today, let's talk about Pokemon. The premise is incredibly simple. You and your captured creatures go on a vast adventure, taking on the world, stopping evil, and trying to become the best there ever was. No, we're not doing that. Generation to generation, console to console, Pokemon is a game that's simple to grasp, but endlessly complicated if you want it to be. Seriously, if you ever want to see some complex figuring, watch these folks calculate capture rates, IVs, EVs, not that one, and battle damage. I'm not that serious of a player, but the stories that I've lived through these games, some of the most personal I've ever experienced. Stories that I've created. There's something about spending hours with these pixels as you fight your way through these games' challenges, watching them grow and improve over time. But eventually, that loses its nuance. That's where you see people start to take these games into their own hands and make them their own, introducing new challenges, rules, and expectations. Take, for example, the Nuzlocke. A Nuzlocke is where you only get to capture what jumps out at you first in each area. No items in battle, and when one faints, it goes to the, forever box. Thanks, YouTube. It's meant to give these games the hard mode that they've needed for years. But Pokemon isn't that simple. Really? Have you seen Twitch Plays Pokemon? Where literal thousands of people spam inputs into Twitch chat just to control the character that's on screen? And sometimes they win? The art styling over time has gone from iconic to delightful to a rough 3D transition. Look, Pokemon has spent the majority of its life on handheld consoles. Its visuals were never going to be breathtaking. But Nintendo, to their credit, oftentimes made the most out of what they had. Generations 3 through 5 gave us some of the sharpest, most dynamic sprites the series has ever offered. And when somewhere along the way, it kind of got a little dull. Lifeless. When I was little, Pokemon didn't need cinematic cutscenes to feel big. It gave you just enough story to breathe life into the world. Criminal organizations, wide-ranging species, townspeople working odd jobs. I cannot help you. There was mystery and wonder. But more than that, it was a world waiting for you to bring it to life. Every capture, every battle, every loss, it all creates a story that's uniquely yours. One that others might relate to, but never fully replicate. A great example? The Soul Link Challenge. 2 players, the same journey, but each of their Pokemon are soul bonded. If one faints, the other one is lost too. Same game, same rules, but vastly different stories. And that's what Pokemon has always been about for me. Not the graphics, not the mechanics, the feeling of owning your own little world. But ever since the games went 3D, something's been missing. Watching a 3D model cycle the same idle animation on repeat, it really breaks the illusion. It's static. Somehow, the older games felt more alive than the ones that came after. Maybe that's just our imagination that was filling the gap back when these were 2D sprites. And now that we're in these big 3D worlds, maybe it's not living up to the standards that we gave it ourselves in our own head. Now, I'll give credit where it's due. Pokemon has improved in a lot of mechanical ways. Trade evolutions aren't as essential, TMs in some games don't break, no more HM slaves, be free, Bidoof. But if you took a player from 1998 and handed them Sword and Shield, or maybe even Scarlet and Violet, to a certain degree they'd still know exactly what to expect. And really that's my issue. Over 25 years in, the core formula really hasn't changed. Every few years, it's a new region, new mons, a new silent protagonist, 8 gyms, a legendary encounter, big bads, champion, gotta catch 'em all. No. What surprises me, though, is that Pokemon has been bold before. Take, for example, the Mystery Dungeon games, where you and your fellow Pokemon work together to solve problems, battle enemies, and save the world. It's charming, unique, and a totally different vibe from the main games. Or take, for example, Pokemon Ranger, where you're not just catching, but helping, befriending Pokemon for a moment before setting them free. It really takes the core element of the games and flips it on its head. Or one of my favorites, Pokemon Snap. See, this is why I struggle with some of the modern models. Snap gave us emotion, movement, and behavior. Pokemon with a personality, a world that really felt alive. Now, to be fair, I haven't played the Legends games. But from what I've seen, it really does look like a step in the right direction. A little more ambition, a little more wonder. People say, though, well, Pokemon defined a generation. Yeah, and it still does. But I like to think that it's resting on that legacy. Listen, I'm an aggressively average fan, and even I can admit these games need a push. I just finished Brilliant Diamond, and I got exactly what I expected. A similar experience to Heart Gold, to Leaf Green, to Emerald. But when something like Pal World comes along and says, hey, we can do this differently, and in some cases better, it really wakes you up. Take, for example, Scarlet and Violet sold over 25 million copies. For what? For that? The first fully open-world Pokemon game, and it looks and it feels like this? To be fair, I've recently had a chance to play these games on Switch too, and I can feel the intentions behind these games much clearer. But when I have a cloud or weather in these games clip by at 15 frames a second, even on a Switch 2, it really makes you wonder. Listen, do I like these games? Yeah, absolutely I do. But you can't tell me that the Pokemon Company might be running a little bit on fumes. Look at the last few Pokemon Presents we've had. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you a nothing sandwich. And yet, we keep buying them. We keep hoping, we keep chasing that feeling we had as kids, booting up our first game under the covers at night. Don't believe me? Look at some of the fan games that are out there. Look at what this community is doing to keep the spirit of what we had when we were younger alive. Games like Pokerogue, This Gym of Mine, or even Super Mario Mon. All of them built by people who refuse to let the series become stagnant. If it were up to me, I would love to keep the open world like from Scarlet and Violet, but get some of the soul from Snap. Give these creatures personality, make it shine like we've seen from these other Switch 2 titles. Give it that polish that it really needs. Pokemon is near and dear to me, and I want nothing more for it to understand the power that it's inside. Okay, yeah, no, that one's on me. The video was done. Everything was edited, and in fact, I had actually started producing shorts in anticipation of releasing the actual video here. Until there was a commenter that really caught my eye. I had posted this section related to my criticism that the core formula of Pokemon has not changed. And their opinion, and their argument point was one that I found really fascinating, and they said this, and they're right, by the way. Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield both, respectively, sold over 20 million copies, really only being outdone by the likes of Gold and Silver or Red, Blue, and Green. So the question that they posed to me is the question that I pose back to you, is if you're in the shoes of the Pokemon Company right now, what do you do? Do you stick with the formula that we've had for all of these years because we know it works? Maybe it's because people are wanting to embrace that nostalgia from when they were kids. Or maybe they're purchasing these games in anticipation of their own children. Regardless of what that point is, it's making money. Or do you evolve the series and embrace a new way to play and a new changing dynamic into this world that we call Pokemon? Let me know in the comments below what you think. I'm very curious as to what the conversation like this might uphold. Where these games are headed next is really anyone's guess. However, it's my sincere hope that they will create a world that truly feels like the ones we've had created on our TVs and 2Ds as we've grown up. And I think if we're able to capture that, then I think you see something truly special happen. As always, thank you so much for watching. It's greatly appreciated. And I look forward to seeing every single one of you in the next video.